fellow bookworms to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and we just finished reading The Servants by Michael Marshall Smith. I'm really excited to talk about this book today. Just a reminder though, this morning another video came out covering last week's weekly read because I was not able to get a video out due to being ill. But that video came out this morning. Definitely check it out because I talk about the rating system I'm going to be doing this year, which is the CAWPILE rating system. I'll leave the channel to the original creator down below, along with the channel to Emily Jean Blatt, who's who I learned about this system from. And yeah, absolutely love this system so far. It's working really, really well. And enjoying it a lot. But anyway, go check out that video if you want to know more, or go check out the original creator to learn more as well. But just know going forward, I'm going to be talking about the books using that system. So keep that in mind. Also, before we continue on, don't forget we do our Book of the Month discussion questions every Monday. I did announce Book of the Month for February. I really hope you guys will participate with me on that read. So check out that video. I'll leave it linked down below as well. We do our weekly reads every Wednesday. We do a Throwback Thursday, and Series Saturday has resumed. So those videos will be popping up here and there. And then also other bonus videos. I'm currently working my way through my ABC Author Challenge books and my 25 days of Bookmas books. So lots of bonus videos that come out. I also just did a book haul. So if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on a thing. So that being said, let's go ahead and talk about The Servants. This one, I have to be honest, I struggled a little bit to get into it. I thought it was just because I was sick, but I think it's just because it's a little bit slow in the beginning, and so it was really hard to kind of get into. But I'm really glad I stuck with this. So it follows Mark, who recently his mom got married, and so he moved with his mom and his stepdad down out of London to a place called Brighton. And he's not in schools, and he's kind of just lost and floundering. Um, and yeah, that's kind of the premise of the book. It was kind of hard to figure out where this book was going, which I think is part of the problem. Like, it's like, okay, so he's living with his mom and stepdad, he's not happy, but where's this plot line going? And yeah, we'll get into that in a moment. I'm just gonna go through the CAWPILE rating real quick that I did for this one. So for characters, I gave it a 7, which is the low end of really good. And for me, I think overall you got a fairly good sense of the characters. Um, I think the author did a pretty good job. They could have had more depth to them, but it's also not a very long book. It's just over 200 pages. So, I mean, you're not going to get a whole lot of depth in a book that is short like that. That's more of a novella. But overall, I thought the characters were well done. I really did enjoy them, and felt like you had a good sense of who they were. And then for atmosphere, I only gave it a 6. There's not a whole lot, and I think that's kind of what Mark is experiencing too. So there's just not a whole lot, but I think it could have been done a little bit better. And 6 is like the high end of mediocre. Because I mean, you have this beach, and like it's cloudy and gloomy, and I think the atmosphere just could have been stepped up a little bit. But it was just kind of stale like Mark's life. So I think that was kind of the point, but at the same time, it was kind of disappointing. And there was moments like where the servants' quarters were, those moments, the atmosphere was a little bit better. But just overall atmosphere, I thought could have been a little bit better. Writing style, I also gave a 6. Just again, it was kind of slow pace and kind of hard to get into. And you really didn't know where it was going, and so that dropped it down. And then plotline, I gave a 7 actually, because once you figured out kind of what was going on, I think plotline wise, it was actually, I like the symbolism between what's happening down below with the servants' quarters and then what's happening in Mark's life and with his mom. I really like the symbolism there. And so once you kind of figured out where the story was going, I thought the plot line was pretty good. Could have been better, yeah, but overall pretty good. Intrigue, I gave it a 6. Like I said, it was just really hard to get into, and it took a while for you to kind of feel intrigued enough to have any investment in these characters. Logic, I gave a 7. Again, once you kind of figured out where the author was going with everything, it made a lot more sense, and I think the logic was there. Again, it could have been a little bit better, but once you figured it all out, it was all there. So, and then enjoyment, I actually gave an 8. I actually really enjoyed it once I got down to it and was finishing up the book. Like, I just wanted to keep reading at that point. And so, even though it started off slow, I really did enjoy it in the end, and I enjoyed the characters and everything like that. So, the average rating was a 6.71, which is a 3 star if you convert it to a star rating. So yeah, a solid 3 star read. Like I said, overall, really enjoyed it. But as far as Mark, who's the main character, I don't know. I did not enjoy him at all. And I marked a couple pages here that I'm going to talk about. But he just had this attitude like he's only 11, but already he has the teenage angst down like 100%. And it was just kind of like, dude, like, get over yourself. Like, we get you're upset. But like, come on now. And just the way he acts is like, you just like you just want to throttle him a little bit. Like, come on, like it's not about you. Like, look outside yourself and realize what's happening. Which he doesn't. He's just so angry at the world and the stepfather that he can't see past that to see what's really going on. And so the first page I marked um, is I love this part because this his stepdad's a pretty even kill kind of guy, and at this point he kind of calls Mark out on his BS, and so it says he ends up calling him an a-hole, like stop being a little a-hole is what he says, and then it goes, "Oh, sorry," David added, which David's the stepfather. "That's an American word, isn't it? And I know how much they confuse you. Try not to be an arsehole instead, if that's easier." And then put another way, just effing grow up. Um, and that seems a little harsh, especially coming from a step parent. But honestly, the kid needed a wake up call, and so I loved it when David did that. I was like, yes, like call that kid out on his BS because, like, seriously, at this point, it's getting to be ridiculous. Like, get over yourself. And so David, part of it, he's not American. He's English too, but he spent many years working in America, and that's one of the things that gets under Mark's skin is that he'll use American slang and such. And so yeah, that's one of the things, and so that's why like he says, "Oh, is that too American for you?" Like, I'm so sorry. Um, and then the next one, they start, Mark again is just kind of being a jerk, and so he thinks that David doesn't buy him his soda because he doesn't want him to drink soda. And so far David's just kind of trying to keep the peace and everything. And so finally, Mark says something about the soda and he goes, "It's heavy. Your mother drinks a lot of water. The stuff out of the taps here doesn't taste so good. She doesn't like it anyway. So every time I go to the supermarket, I cart back about 10 big bottles of mineral water, plus food, plus the other things we need. It's held apart, so I walk. I bring as much Diet Coke as I can carry." Um, and I just like it's like, dude, like again, he's like, stop, like look at the facts, not just your feelings. Like, look at what's actually going on. And so I really like that line as well, and it kind of shows like they're starting to be able to communicate a little bit. Like, Mark still doesn't really believe him, but it puts the little bug in his ear, and that's kind of a good step that leads forward. And then the next page I marked is, I kept moving this marker because there were so many good spots here, but this is the first time that Mark really sees David and his mom as humans. And it's not just this world he's living in. At one point, David says, like, your mom, she is who she is. She's Yvonne. Um, she's your mother, but that's only how you see her. That's not who she is. And I think we all come to that realization at some point that our parents are actually people, and it's like, wow, I didn't realize that because we just see them as our parents. And so I really like that. And it's the first time where he's starting to really see David as a person and not just the evil stepfather as well. So in this instance, I'm gonna go ahead and give a little bit of a spoiler. So if you don't want, I mean, you can, I figured it out really early on, so if you're reading this book, you should be able to figure it out early on. But Mark doesn't come into this realization till the end of the book. But his mom is sick, like she has cancer, and he doesn't realize that. Like he thinks it's David's influence that is keeping her in the house and is the reason why she doesn't have any energy or anything like that. So at this point, they end up bringing his mom down to the beach, and they have like a little picnic. And the part I marked is um a couple times while she was doing this, when he thought Mark wasn't looking, David slipped his fork onto her plate and transferred some of her food onto his. But Mark did see, and he understood what David was doing, and the next time David did this, he was careful to be looking away. And I don't know, I really like that because it shows, like, oh, like, mom is sick, and the caring, he's recognizing how much David cares for his mother. And he kind of had to come to a hard realization as well about his father, because again, I talked about it in the other book too, If Wishes Were Horses, which was last week's weekly read, the video that came out this morning. Like, these boys have this hero complex when it comes to their father, and they don't really see them as real people with all their faults. And so Mark had to come to that realization as well. And I really liked how you have, like, there's a little bit of this ghost story happening as well, with the servants and everything, which is obviously the title of the book. And I liked how the symbolism of that, and there's like this toxic thing happening, how that symbolizes both Mark's life and the cancer that his mother's fighting. Like, I really liked how that all tied together. It was really nice. There were a few things like, you never learn the old lady's name at all, which kind of bugs me. It's like you would think at some point you would learn her name. Um, and there's never really a full development of why these ghost servants are still there. Like, why? Like, it does tie in and there's a symbolism there, but as far as like the ghost story part, you never learn why they're there and what's happening, which was kind of a bummer as well. But overall, like I said, a pretty solid read. Even though it's slow to get into, it's such a short book that it's really not too bad. And so yeah, I'm really glad I pushed through and ended up finishing this book because I really liked how it tied together at the end. But yeah, that's it for The Servants. This week we are going to be reading The Glass Dragon by Irene Radford, which is the first in the Dragon Nimbus series. So, really looking forward to this. I'll go ahead and read the synopsis for you. I know it's a little late because we're starting it today, but if you want to get a copy at some point, you could do so, or check out my video next week when I talk about it. But it says, someone is killing the dragons. Dragons have recently become an endangered species, and more part of legend than of life. And with their swiftly diminishing numbers, the source of all magic is fading from the land of Coronin. And in this realm, which has always been protected by its magicians, a kingdom whose ruler's own life and power is intricately linked with that of the dragons. The disappearance of these magical beasts could see the land fall to invaders. Jailer, a journeyman wizard, is one among many who has been sent forth from the capital to investigate, despite the fact that his mentors consider him almost hopeless because his magic does not follow any of the standard forms. And it is Jailer who will stumble upon the greatest treasures and perils remaining in Coronin when fate, or perhaps a dragon's enchantment, draws him to the spell-hidden glen of the witch woman Brevlin. But can Jailer and Brevlin find out who is behind the attempt to destroy the dragons and put an end to the campaign of slaughter before all magic is forever drained from the land? So we'll be starting this one today, and then next week, if you want to participate, we are going to be reading The Other Daughter by Lisa Gardner. And let me go ahead and read the synopsis for you on this one. It says, "What you don't know can kill you. In Texas, a serial killer is executed, taking to his grave the identity of his only child. In Boston, a 9-year-old girl is abandoned in a hospital and then adopted by a wealthy young couple. 20 years later, Melanie Snokes still considers herself lucky until the terrifying visions begin, until a has-been reporter starts investigating her past, until the first note arrives saying you get what you deserve. Melanie had lost all her memory of her life before the adoption, and now someone wants to give it back, even if it includes the darkest nightmare the Stokes family ever faced, the murder of their first daughter in Texas. As Melanie pursues every lead, chases every shadow in the search for her real identity, two seemingly unrelated events from 20 years ago will come together in a dangerous explosion of truth. And with her very life at stake, Melanie will fear that the family she loves the most may be the people she should trust the least." So we'll be reading this one starting next week. But that is it for today. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.